I'm going to be teaching this simple tool of going into a theta brainwave state when you're conscious, when you're awake, and then using it to dissolve our limiting beliefs, aka lies, and opening ourselves up to the reality that we are prosperous beings and that we have a direct connection to source energy, unlimited source. Theta brainwave state is what our brains are doing at night when we're dreaming. But we can also learn to take our brains into that state of brainwaves while we're conscious. And when we do, it can profoundly change our relationship with what we call reality. When we are in the theta wave state, we have a much easier time believing things we can't normally believe. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had a dream where you could fly? Unless you're very unusual, of course you have. Almost everybody has dreams where we could fly. Now, do you believe you can fly? Well, probably not in the light of day. And yet, levitation is one of the classic siddhis, S-I-D-D-H-I-S, the magical powers of the Buddhist masters. So there's plenty of people in the Buddhist tradition who have levitated, flown. Let me give you another example. Have you ever had a dream where you were in one place and then instantly, without doing anything and no time passing, you were in another place? Well, of course you've had dreams like that. Well, most likely you've had dreams like that. Now, do you believe when you're sitting right here, right now, that you can do that? That you can, it's called translation, that you can instantly translate yourself from one location to another? Probably not. And yet, that translation was recorded in the Bible of Jesus. He was on one side of the lake, and then it says instantly he was on the other side, and people were like, hey, how'd that happen? And I actually have a friend of a friend who had that happen to him. Long story, but a verified, in my opinion, verified account of somebody living today who instantly went from one place to another. It's also that particular ability is a standard miracle recorded of the Sufi saints. And Sufism is the mystical branch of Islam. So the Sufi saints often were reported translating themselves from one place to another instantly. So my point is that we do things when we're dreaming, when we're in that theta brainwave state, that mystics have known for centuries is possible to do when we're awake. The only way the mystics were able to do it was as they became spiritual masters. It's not that they all could do it all the time, but it's across the mystical traditions, this idea that as we become more and more in tune with our divine human self and with source, suddenly we can do these things that we do when we're dreaming, when we're in the theta brainwave state. We are divine human beings. We're capable of miracles. We're capable of energy, Reiki, energy flowing out of our hands and healing people. Now that's become much more accepted in today's world, just, probably in the last 20 years or so. We are supposed to be miracle working beings, like the Buddhist masters, like Jesus, like the Sufi saints. Now what I love, I said this already, is that intersection of spiritual mysticism and science. This is where it gets really good. So in my webinar, we're going to be right there at the sweet spot of science and spirituality. And I'm actually going to be taking you into that theta brainwave state. It's really easy to get there. It takes some practice, but most of the time can help somebody do it in just, I'm going to be doing a guided meditation in the webinar. Most of the time people find that they're able to do it right away, even if you're saying, but I can never do those meditation things. I think you probably can. It's possible for you to have a life that is full of things that look like miracles, that are these amazing synchronicities, that are magical. And I want to teach you how to do this. And I'm going to finish by holding up this spoon that I've shown so many times. I bent this spoon. This spoon is totally solid. Like, I can't possibly bend it back the way it was. I actually bent it in 2 different shots. So the first time I was on a group conference call with Martha Beck, and there were about 300 people on the call, and we all had our spoons with us. And she took us all into this really deep meditative theta brainwave state. And then we were supposed to connect with our spoon, and she guided us how to do that, and ask our spoon if it was willing to play with us, and send it an image of bending. And I actually wanted my spoon to bend in a corkscrew. So that's the image I sent my spoon. And then there was this moment where my spoon just, it's like it turned into warm clay in my hands. It was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. And I bent it in half. I didn't get the full curly Q at that point. I bent it in half. And there were 300 of us on this call, and thankfully we were all muted, because I was like shrieking and laughing and crying, and it totally pulled me then out of that theta brainwave state. And so my spoon bent in half and it stopped. Then I was leading a group of about 10 people on a conference call, same thing, but I was leading at this time. Everybody had their spoons. And I had mine too, and I didn't know if I'd be able to bend my spoon again while I was leading, because I thought, oh, I'm going to be distracted and, worried if the participants are if I'm saying it, the process clearly enough and all of that. And so I take everyone into this deep place, and I could feel myself going really deep, even though I was still speaking, into that theta brainwave state. And then all of a sudden, when it came time to bend it, my spoon bent, I got the next bit of the curlicue, and I was ready to keep going and make the whole corkscrew. But I hadn't thought to mute my participants. And somebody said, "Holy shit," as her spoon bent, which of course pulled me completely out of that theta brainwave state and made all the rest of us laugh. So even as I'm saying this right now, I'm thinking maybe we'll do a little spoon bending on this webinar on Thursday, because part of it is just for you to see how incredibly powerful you are, that you are a magical divine human combo, and that reality is completely different than what you think it is. So register for the webinar, and I promise no more teasers on the webinar. I'm going to actually take you through the process of accessing the theta brainwave state. So that's all for tonight. Thank you so much for being here with me. Ciao.